The political landscape has taken a dramatic turn, resembling the chaos of a reality TV show.
We gave you through this stupid president if you didn't have our military equipment.
A bold accusation has emerged, directly alleging that Donald Trump is a Russian agent, codenamed Grass No. Reports claim that Trump had discussed purchasing gas 40 years ago, hinting at his long-standing identification as a Russian asset. Meanwhile, the practice of weekly extortion is allegedly ongoing, with threats to other nations demanding financial tribute for protection. The rhetoric extends to seizing resources, colonization, and outright invasion. On February 28, 2025, a highly anticipated meeting took place at the White House between US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Vice President J.D. Vance was also in attendance, along with a large media presence broadcasting the event live. As plates were being set for a meal, an unprecedented event unfolded, one that would forever be etched in modern diplomatic history. The meeting quickly escalated into a physical confrontation, 3 against 3, as if a reality show had come to life. This incident marks a pivotal moment, signaling a dramatic shift in global geopolitics and the world order. Elon Musk, one of the world's wealthiest oligarchs, has openly suggested that the United States should withdraw from the United Nations and NATO. Trump's America has already distanced itself from the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Agreement while forging closer ties with Russia, an adversary of past decades. The situation has deteriorated so significantly that some individuals are openly accusing Trump of being directly aligned with Russian President Vladimir Putin. To understand the gravity of this issue, it is essential to revisit the background. On February 24, 2022, Russia launched an invasion of Ukraine, initiating a conflict that was not a mutual war, but a one-sided act of aggression. Ukraine fought back solely in defense of its sovereignty, while Russia sought territorial expansion under the guise of propaganda. The true motive behind Russia's actions was colonialism. At the onset of the invasion, Russian forces rapidly advanced, securing large portions of northern and eastern Ukraine. In response, the United States, European nations, and their allies condemned the invasion, imposed sanctions on Russia, and provided Ukraine with military aid. Due to these efforts, Ukraine was able to push Russian forces back significantly by September 2022. However, the conflict soon reached a stalemate, with both sides entrenched in their positions. For the past 3 years, millions of lives have been lost on both sides. Ukraine has struggled to reclaim its occupied territories, while Russia has failed to seize further land. The Western strategy has remained consistent, avoiding direct military intervention while supplying Ukraine with weapons, financial aid, and economic sanctions against Russia. The stance of Ukraine and its allies has also been unwavering. The war will not end until Ukraine regains all of its pre-invasion territories. However, the global balance shifted in 2024 when Donald Trump won the US presidential election. His campaign had already hinted at a drastic political realignment, and now, with Trump in power, the world stands on the brink of an unprecedented transformation. During his campaign, Donald Trump declared that he would end the Russia-Ukraine war within a day of becoming president. Now in office, he is determined to stop the conflict at any cost. A recent meeting between Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky focused on this very issue. Ukraine has expressed its willingness to cease hostilities, but insists on guarantees that Russia will not launch another attack post-ceasefire. For this, Ukraine seeks security assurances from the United States. However, Trump appears to be ignoring this request. Instead, Trump has proposed that Ukraine hand over 50% of its revenue from natural resources, including oil, gas, and infrastructure, to the United States in exchange for continued support. This proposal has drawn comparisons to historical colonial practices, with the Telegraph newspaper describing it as the economic colonization of Ukraine. The Economist magazine has even suggested that Trump is demanding protection money akin to a mafia-style extortion scheme. Given the gravity of such a demand, no rational leader would willingly surrender half of their country's resources. Consequently, Zelensky refused to sign the initial agreement, stating that he would not commit future generations of Ukrainians to such a burden. Trump, angered by Zelensky's refusal, publicly labeled him a dictator and took to social media, warning, "Better move fast or you will be left with no country." Following these remarks, Zelensky traveled to the White House on February 28, 2025 to engage in further negotiations. The entire meeting was broadcast live. The discussion initially proceeded smoothly for about half an hour before tensions escalated. Zelensky pointed out that Putin had violated ceasefire agreements 25 times, questioning how Ukraine could trust any new assurances. He argued that if Ukraine halted the war now, Russia could simply attack again in the future. He emphasized that since 2014, Putin Putin had repeatedly broken his own commitments. Trump had no direct response to this and merely stated, "But Putin has not broken the agreement with me." At this point, US Vice President J.D. Vance interjected, advocating for diplomacy as the only viable path to peace and prosperity. In response, Zelensky highlighted Ukraine's history, recalling that it was once the third largest nuclear power in the world. However, in 1994, Ukraine voluntarily surrendered its nuclear arsenal under the Budapest Memorandum. In this agreement, Russia, the US, and the UK pledged to protect Ukraine in case of external aggression. Yet, this promise proved meaningless when Russia invaded and Ukraine was left to defend itself alone. Zelensky openly criticized the failure of these assurances, stating in front of the American media that Ukraine had upheld its commitments while Russia had repeatedly violated them. He expressed frustration that despite Ukraine's gratitude, it continued to receive threats and demands rather than solid guarantees. The meeting, intended to broker peace, instead laid bare deep geopolitical tensions, with Trump ultimately resorting to direct threats as negotiations took a hostile turn. During the Rai Young Lamy PY Gang with 3Y Gang Vi meeting, a reporter asked Trump what would happen if Russia broke the ceasefire. Instead of providing a direct answer, Trump responded with a rhetorical question. What if a bomb falls on your head? What will happen then? Such an argument, more fitting for reality TV shows like Roadies or Big Boss, was now coming from the President of the United States, a situation that many found astonishing. When Zelensky attempted to provide a response, Trump abruptly ordered the media out of the room. Shortly afterward, Zelensky himself was asked to leave the White House. The mineral deal remained unsigned, and the elaborate meal prepared for both presidents was left untouched. Following the meeting, Trump took to social media, claiming that Zelensky was not ready for peace and had insulted America in the Oval Office. He added that Zelensky could return when he was prepared to negotiate peace. In response, Zelensky tweeted a sarcastic "thank you, thank you, thank you," echoing his frustration. European leaders quickly expressed their support for Zelensky, to which he replied with repeated thank you messages. Trump's hostility towards Zelensky had been escalating for weeks. Under Joe Biden's presidency, Ukraine had received unconditional support from the United States. However, after Trump took office, he arranged a meeting between US and Russian officials in Saudi Arabia to discuss Ukraine, without including Ukraine in the discussions. This move was reminiscent of the Yalta Conference of 1945, where the fate of smaller European nations was decided by the US, Soviet Union, and Britain without their direct involvement. Biden's administration had followed the principle of nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine, but Trump seemed to disregard this approach entirely. A further shift in US policy became evident on February 24, 2025, during a United Nations General Assembly vote on a resolution against Russia. Traditionally, the US had supported Ukraine, or at the very least remained neutral. However, for the first time in history, the US voted against Ukraine, aligning itself with Russia and North Korea. This marked a rare moment where the US and Russia found themselves on the same side of a major UN vote, while the majority of the world stood in opposition. This shift raises a crucial question. Why is Trump doing this? There are two main reasons. First, Trump's personal dislike for Zelensky. Second, his alleged ties to Russia. Accusations have resurfaced that Trump is a Russian asset, with claims that his codename is Krasnodar. These allegations have fueled ongoing suspicions about his connections to Russian interests. Back in 2019, the US Congress had already accused Trump of seeking foreign interference in American elections. Now, with his return to power, the same concerns have re-emerged, painting a picture of a geopolitical realignment that could reshape global diplomacy. Trump was impeached in 2019 after being accused of attempting to use Ukraine's assistance to influence the US election. He had pressured Zelensky to push the Ukrainian government into investigating Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. At the time, Hunter Biden was on the board of a Ukrainian energy company under investigation in Ukraine. During the Obama administration, when Joe Biden was vice president, he had advocated for the removal of Ukraine's prosecutor general on corruption charges. Following this, the investigation into Hunter Biden's company was halted. However, in 2019, Trump called Zelensky, questioning why the investigation had stopped and demanding that it be restarted. To blackmail Zelensky, Trump temporarily froze millions of dollars in military aid to Ukraine. Although Ukraine eventually received the aid, Zelensky's government had to plead multiple times for its release. When this scheme was exposed, Trump was impeached. Trump in turn blamed Zelensky for his impeachment. This was the first major reason for Trump's hostility towards Zelensky. The second reason, however, is far more intriguing. Russia's intelligence agency, formerly the KGB, has a history of identifying and recruiting foreign assets. A former KGB major, Yuri Shvets, who was stationed in Washington in the 1980s, alleged that Trump was first identified as a Russian asset over 40 years ago. According to Shvets, Russian intelligence took an interest in Trump in 1977 when he married Ivana Zelnichkova, a Czech model. As a result, Trump became a target for both Czechoslovak intelligence and the KGB. 3 years later, in 1980, Trump opened the Grand Hyatt New York Hotel and purchased 200 television sets from Semyon Kislin, a known spotter agent for the KGB. This was the moment when, according to Shvets, Trump was first marked as a potential Russian asset. In 1987, Trump and Ivana traveled to Moscow and St. Petersburg, where the KGB launched a charm offensive on him. Trump was given strategic talking points, showered with flattery, and encouraged to enter politics. Russian officials even assured him that he would one day become president of the United States. Shortly after returning to the US, Trump took out full-page advertisements in major American newspapers, questioning US foreign policy. He soon began exploring the possibility of a presidential run, expressing political ambitions as early as 1987. Trump made attempts to secure presidential nominations in 2000 and 2012 before finally succeeding in 2016. During the 2016 election, allegations surfaced that Russia had interfered to help him win. Multiple US government investigations found concrete evidence of Russian meddling, including Russian troll farms that spent millions of dollars on online propaganda to sway public opinion in Trump's favor. While Trump's ties to Russia have been a matter of concern for years, his growing inclination toward neo-colonialism is becoming an even greater global threat. The exploitative mineral deal he proposed to Ukraine is a reflection of this mindset. Trump has openly entertained the idea of taking control of other countries, sometimes discussing the purchase of Greenland. He once posted a message saying, "Have a message night for the incredible people of Greenland. We need to reopen for international trade and we will get it." At other times, he has hinted at reclaiming control over the Panama Canal. Trump's ambitions, combined with his foreign policy stance, indicate a shift toward a new era of economic and territorial dominance, raising concerns about the global balance of power. There is increasing discussion about the establishment of American control under Trump's leadership. He has repeatedly joked about colonizing Canada, suggesting that it could become the 51st state of America. Additionally, he has mentioned the possibility of purchasing Gaza, proposing a radical solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict by relocating 2 million Palestinians to another country and transforming Gaza into a luxury real estate hub with 5-star hotels and high-end automobiles. Such rhetoric frames real estate development as a path to peace while ignoring the realities on the ground. This approach may offer short-term advantages over weaker nations, but it ultimately sows the seeds of America's own failure. According to the Foreign Policy magazine article, "The Bad Economics of Bullying," bullying tactics drive away allies rather than securing lasting partnerships. Trump's behavior toward America's long-standing allies is pushing them away, sometimes by threatening tariffs on European countries or India. Under his administration, if products are not manufactured in America, heavy tariffs are imposed. This constant cycle of threats and blackmail over minor disputes creates international instability. The long-term consequences for the USA are becoming clear. Other nations witnessing this behavior are beginning to unite against it. Following the recent dispute with Zelensky, a new consensus is forming in Europe. The European Union, along with France, Germany, the UK, Ireland, Canada, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, the Netherlands, Poland, Spain, and Italy, are coming together, strengthening their cooperation. A growing movement within Europe advocates reducing reliance on the USA, even discussing the establishment of a European army to ensure self-sufficiency in defense matters. Other countries are also devising strategies to deal with Trump's unpredictability. One such strategy is strategic evasion, appearing to agree with Trump's demands while continuously delaying action. After World War II, the United States rose as a superpower and took a leading role in forming global institutions such as the United Nations and the World Health Organization. However, with America's diminishing global influence under Trump, a geopolitical vacuum is emerging. The world now faces a leadership void in these international institutions, creating an urgent need for new leaders to step forward. This moment presents an opportunity for major nations such as China and India to step into global leadership roles. India, in particular, has a unique advantage. With its policy of strategic autonomy and non-alignment, India can position itself as a reliable and trustworthy alternative to America. Asian, African, and South American countries may view India as a more stable and cooperative partner, allowing it to take a front seat in global decision-making. This is not just an opportunity, but a global responsibility. Strong, responsible leadership is needed to protect smaller nations from neo-colonial exploitation. If unchecked, such aggressive policies could push the world toward another large-scale conflict, potentially even World War III. It is crucial that international cooperation is strengthened to counter the rise of economic and political coercion. I hope you found this information insightful. You can find the link to my time management course in the description below. If you'd like to understand how America became a global superpower after World War II and the key factors behind its rise, check out this video by clicking here. Thank you for watching.